Well, hello there, folks. I'm the wizard that sets up your software. This is Slow In Computing, and today we're going to go ahead and set up a desktop computer. So before we begin, let's go ahead and get that computer here, shall we? Alrighty then, so there it is. What we're going to do is we're going to open up the box and then just start setting things up. So what you'll need in addition to the computer is a desk and preferably a wall with an outlet sticking out of it. But with all those in place, let's go ahead and get this set up. So the first thing that we're going to do is take a knife, pair of scissors, anything that'll cut through tape on there. We're going to go right ahead and break through the seal on here. Generally, you've got enough space that you're not going to damage anything in the computers, but just for good practice, don't take the knife and shove it all the way down to the box. You will probably hit something, but use some common sense on this one. We're just cutting through tape. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. From here, one of the things that I like to do, just so that we're not having to lift the computer straight up, they're usually wrapped in plastic, they can get slippery and everything on there. So the first thing that we're going to do is open up these flaps, usually on the very top of the box, but sometimes slid down into the computer. You'll see the quick start guide that they give you, generally a box containing the mouse and a box containing the keyboard. What we're going to do with these guys is we're just going to set them off here to the side. We're not going to need them right now. For the actual computer, what we're going to do here is fold these flaps down. You want them out of the way, and then you're going to rotate the box right down on the table just like that, and then you're going to go ahead and slowly lift it upside down just like that, and then just lift straight up on the box, and that will reveal the computer. I'm going to try to recenter this, get this back in frame for you. Now, generally, this is something that we're going to be seeing a lot with modern computers. They've always got like a bag or some plastic or something around them. Go ahead, take that off. Just with these guys, you'll also notice these little foam pads and everything on here. So again, just make it easy for you. Lean it off to its side, set the computer on the table, get that packaging material out of there, and then for the bag and everything, usually from what I've seen is, if you set the computer standing upright, the bags almost always have a hole on some end. It looks like with this particular one, it left it upside down. So we'll go ahead and get that bag out of the way there. Flip this guy around, and there is our computer. Unboxing done. Not much to look at, but hey, you know what? It's bought, it's paid for, it's all ours. From here, what you want to do is you typically won't see this on the typical Office PC on there, but if you do have a higher end system, if you do have like a gaming PC or anything on there, check the side panel. They're mostly glass these days, but in case yours isn't, there's usually two little thumb screws right over here. Go ahead, give those a twist. This door will pop right off on there, and then just go ahead, sort of drop it down on there. And then don't worry if your computer doesn't look exactly the same. We're not going for a one for one on here. All computers will kind of look a little bit different on there. But what we're looking for is if there's anything that looks like old Walmart bags, like filled with air and everything, they'll kind of be stuffed in here every now and then. Go ahead and pull those out. Again, generally if you have like an Office PC or like a regular home computer, they're not going to have those on there. If they do, there'll be like a little warning label on the side. So if you see that, take the side panel off, check and make sure there's nothing in there. In gaming computers where the graphics cards are getting a lot heavier, that's something that is much more typical. So make sure that you're getting that packaging out before you turn the computer on. It's probably not going to catch on fire, but your computer is definitely not going to be happy about it, and it's something that you want to get out of there. So since this computer's clean, we're going to move on to the next step. Alright, so we've gone ahead and oriented the computer like this. I'm not actually going to show you how I plug it in for my actual desk because you're not going to be able to see anything. It's just going to be me talking with the camera pointed at my back. The back side of the computer, this is where everything needs to be plugged in, so that's why it's flipped around. In your situation though, this will usually be facing like towards the wall. It'll be behind your monitor, anything crazy like that. It is a bit of a trick to get all the cables in, especially if the like the outlet is kind of far away from wherever you're putting it on your desk. I actually have a 5-foot extension cord because my outlet's just not far enough on there. But either way, the kinds of cables that you're going to need to plug into the computer, we're just going to start from the very, basic, I guess, the thing that you absolutely have to have, and then kind of work our way up from there. So with these guys, the first thing you're going to want to do is get your power plug in there. These guys are keyed and they're shaped so they can physically only go in one way. So if you're like fighting with it, you're probably doing it wrong. Flip it around, make sure it goes in. It should give you a little bit of resistance on there, but it shouldn't be something that you're actively fighting with. These are mostly like soft plastic or rubber. They're not designed to hold a lot of stress on there. So don't be forcing these guys in. Just go ahead and push it in there. You'll be off and running. On your computer, you'll notice that this one's actually got these warning labels. It says don't use these video ports, use these ones. That's because this computer has a graphics card in it. If you have a gaming computer, it'll look very similar to this. If you don't have a gaming computer, you'll probably have like an HDMI cable or something somewhere up here. But what you're going to do with that one is with your monitor, it should have came with an HDMI cable. Again, these guys are keyed, they're shaped, they can only go in one way, and they can only go in one port. So go ahead, get that guy plugged in, you're good to go. The other side of that's going to be plugged into your monitor and everything on there, so you should be good to go on that. Also, on your power supply, if you plug it in and like the light comes on and the fan starts spinning, that's fine. That's normal. That happens every now and then. It shouldn't give you any issues. It's just the computer doing like a first, like it woke up and it's like, oh, we need to start doing things. It'll usually go back to sleep. Don't worry about that. From here though, what you're going to want to do is once we have the power, once we have the display, let's go ahead and throw the keyboard and mouse in there. These days you can't do much without the keyboard and mouse, so we'll go ahead and get those guys plugged in. Typically with these, they're just going to be using standard USB on there. There's nothing really crazy about them. That's just kind of all that they've got going on. On the back of your computer, you'll see a handful of different USB ports on there. There isn't really a right way or a wrong way to plug these guys in. But what I like to do is if your computer has these blue guys, we'll go ahead and leave them be. These are like high-speed USBs on there, so if you are hooking up like a hard drive or anything else that uses USB for like data transfer, save that for those. We're going to be using these black ones. These are more like typical USBs, they're a little bit slower on there, but for keyboard and mouse, they are just what the doctor ordered. So we'll go ahead, give those guys a plug-in. Oh, by the way, sorry, just jumping in here. Sorry about the awkward transition there. I forgot to mention earlier on. If your computer came with a wireless keyboard and mouse, you still have to plug something into the back on there, and it's usually located in the bottom of your mouse. So if your keyboard and mouse aren't working, pull this bottom cover off, and then hiding right there, and it's always the same color plastic as the mouse, so it's really hard to see. Sometimes if you like tap the mouse on the table, it'll come off. This one's particularly stuck on there, so you're looking for something about the size of like a Tic Tac. There it is. That has to go into the back of your computer. This is the communications chip for the keyboard and mouse. It plugs in just like the regular keyboard and mouse on there, and it tells the computer all the same stuff on that. So yeah, if your keyboard and mouse aren't working and they're wireless, check the mouse. You probably have one of these and you need to plug that in as well. Either way, back to the regular video. And then the only other thing that we need to worry about is the internet. If you have a typical business tower or like a regular home computer and everything, typically if it has Wi-Fi, you're not going to have to do anything else with it. If you are working with like a gaming computer or anything else like that, it's probably got these little antennas, and they're usually located in the same bag as your quick start manual. Go ahead and find those. You'll see 2 metal posts on the side of the computer. This one doesn't have any, but yours will. It'll look like the the screw down thing that comes out of the back of your cable box on there. Go ahead, take those antennas, screw them in on there. They don't need to be tight. Just get them in there and you'll be good to go on that. Kind of angle them upwards out of the way and you'll be off and running. For this machine though, this one actually doesn't even have any Wi-Fi, so we were going to have to do a hardwire connector in there. And honestly, if you were just planning on using a hardwire connector anyway, this is how you plug it in. Again, everything in computers is keyed. They have made it as simple as possible these days. Only goes in one way, and it's going to go in this big square port right over here with this little thing sticking out the top of it. Go ahead, push it in, you'll hear it click a little bit, and you're good to go. Other than that, that's all the stuff that you need to actually plug into a computer. Everything else is going to be like accessories. If you want speakers, they're usually always the same way. They go in the green hole. Our computer's lucky we only have the one headphone jack. Some computers have like 6 or 7 of them that are all different colors. It goes in the green. If your speakers require additional power, plug that into any USB. They're not picky on there. I would advise against using the front panel power and headphone jack on there, because occasionally you'll get like signal noise. It'll sound like staticky. You might get like a wee 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 sound coming out of it. That's typical for computers. If you route any audio line anywhere near like high power voltage or anything like that, it'll pick that stuff up. Go ahead, put it through the back on there. You should be okay to go on that. Everything else though is either already plugged in or is something to do with a monitor, and usually with those guys you're only looking at the HDMI and the power cables. Once you get those plugged in, you'll be off and running. Either way though, that's been how to set up your computer. We'll probably be revisiting this like how to start, how to set up guide in the near future. I'll show you what to do when you first turn the computer on and how to get through Windows, but that'll be on the next video. So until then, have a good one.